My name's Adele Onyango, and welcome to another episode of Legally Clueless. No, seriously, I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. Hey you, welcome to episode 270 of Legally Clueless. This is what's coming up in this episode.
And since I had stayed in bed for so long, because I'd been in a laid position for so long, I started going for physiotherapy. Because it's not healthy for you to be laid in bed for that long. 3 months is quite a long time just to be in bed. Because I remember for the longest time ever, I was on diapers. Because I couldn't be able to just stand and go to the loo every single time. I was on adult diapers. And I was bitter with the hospital that misdiagnosed me.
Yes, finally part 2 of Vivian's stories here. I know, I disrupted things last week, but I've made amends. You'll find part 2 a little later in this episode. If you're an OG member, thank you so much for being part of this family. If you have just discovered us, audio episodes like this go out every single Monday. And if you head over to legallycluelessafrica.com, you can sign up to officially join the family and get letters from me. You can watch the 4 seasons of our video series and also our tour series. Oh, I've been forgetting to say this. Oh my goodness, it's just hit me now. You can also join our warm corner of the internet, which is Instagram, we're at Legally Clueless Africa, and on TikTok, we're at Legally Clueless Africa as well. All the links that I have talked about are in the show notes, so head over there to check them out. It has been a long while since I shared a song of the week with you. And it's not that I'd forgotten. To be quite honest, I just haven't. I don't know if I'm the only person who goes through spells where you're not finding or stumbling on inspiring music. And so even the music that you're kind of adding to your playlist or whatever, you're adding it, but it hasn't hit the spot. Do you know what I mean? Yes, it's been a while. It's been a long while since I felt like, ooh, this song has hit the spot. And I finally have found a song that hit the spot hard enough. I'm sorry, my mind is in the gutter as I'm saying all this. Hit the spot hard enough for me to share it with you. And it's by an artist who I didn't even know about. Like, I literally stumbled on his page on TikTok. Honestly, TikTok is where I discover most of my music. He seems like such a cool cat. His name is Dear Silas, and the name of the song is Out the Way. I love it. Oh my goodness. And it's so laid back nicely, and it's just got this vibe to it that's wonderful. So please check it out, and I hope you like it as much as I do. Now, before we jump into part 2 of Vivian's story, I do need to give you a reminder that on the 25th of May, our resident therapist Faith is going to be leading our wellness talk, and it's virtual, which means wherever you are in the world, I highly advise that you join us. We had our first wellness talk just over a month ago, and it was all about finances. This time around, we're looking at navigating a toxic workplace. And so Faith is going to be weaving us through kind of like the tips that can help us understand the environment a bit better, understand the different toxic personalities that coworkers and bosses have. I feel like sometimes we've normalized those personalities till we think they're not toxic, but they are. She's also going to give us tips on how to still remain mentally healthy even when you are in a toxic workplace, because not all of us can just up and quit. But for those of you who can and you're battling fear, that's another thing Faith is going to touch on, is how do you overcome that fear, that fear of resigning from this job, the fear of the unknown, the fear of failure, the fear of financial dependency, whatever your fear is. She's going to help us unpack that. We're going to look at identity. How do you figure out who you are without this job? Because that's a very important part. And there's another part that we hardly ever talk about when we touch on toxic workplaces. But how does that toxic workplace start to sip into or bleed into your other relationships and sometimes even ruin them? Legit. It's a thing. So make sure you join us. It's on the 25th of May at 10 a.m. Kenyan time. And tickets are only 1,000 bob. You can grab your tickets right now on Hustle Sasa, or just go to legallycluelessafrica.com. There's a link in the show notes. And shout out to everybody who's already bought. Like, we are halfway sold out in 1 week, which is so amazing. Thank you so much for supporting. But I'm also excited for you to be at this wellness talk, because we really try here at Legally Clueless to put together things that will benefit you. So yes, we're convening, we're coming together as a community, but I want you to walk away with something, some knowledge, some comfort, some tools, some tips, you know what I mean? And this wellness talk is definitely going to do that. So see you on the 25th. Okay, let's jump into Vivian's story. Part 1 is in episode 269, so you will be very confused if you don't listen to that to that episode first, please. But it did end with her waking up in ICU. So now we find out what in the world happened next. 100 African stories on Legally Clueless. Stories from Africa.
You're in a totally different hospital right now. You're no longer in St. Mary's. So we moved you from St. Mary's. By the time we moved you from St. Mary's, you had already gone unconscious. And I think that is when it hit my mom. Oh, she actually needs to be moved. You know, she might actually die in this particular hospital. I had been unconscious. So they moved me using an ambulance from St. Mary's. I ended up in an hospital called Alamein. It is in Isile. And to be honest with you, I don't know how they came down to that particular choice, but I felt like it was out of necessity. It was the only hospital that might have been open at that particular point. And when I got admitted at that hospital, I had to be put in ICU immediately. So remember, the last time I was conscious, I was in St. Mary's Langata, and it had been around the 3rd week. So you can imagine I had been in ICU for about 2-3 weeks, right? The fact that I had woken up, if you could have seen people's reactions, I knew it was definitely a miracle. Because for me to have stayed there, because I don't recall it, because to date, every time I tell this story to my friends or every time we talk about it, they're like, okay, you were unconscious for that long. What do you recall? And to be honest with you guys, it was just darkness. There was nothing there. You see the way people said, I died a little, or people say, oh, I think I might have gone to hell and come back. There was nothing that I recall of that period. I was just unconscious. I can't even say I was in a coma or anything. But speaking for myself, it was just darkness. Nothingness, basically. There was nothing there. And till the time that I woke up, that is when anything lights up in my memory. At that particular point, I still had issues with memory still. It's not like my memory magically came back. I was still struggling I understand, yes, they were my friends. It's like there's something familiar about you, but I can't say what exactly. And to be honest with you, I can as well say, I don't know you. That is how bad it got. At this time, I don't know exactly what I'm being diagnosed for. Actually, by the time I woke up, I was like, I need my phone. I had been so out of touch with the world. And I was like, I understand that I'm a patient. I mean, getting my phone should not be the first order of business after you've woken up. But I'm like, I just need to know what is happening in the world. I want to talk to people. And at first, the doctors were like, no, we don't think it's a good idea. But then I think after I had woken up, maybe like 3 days after I was still in the ICU for 3 more days. And then now that's when I was moved down to a regular ward. I was like, okay, now you're not in danger anymore. I don't think you need to be in the ICU anymore. I think you can move down to a regular ward. The hospital was kind enough to actually give me a private ward. Like I had my own private ward, and it was so helpful because I needed that particular privacy. Personally, the things I was going, it was more of confusion. I remember feeling confused because it's like something happened and I don't know exactly what happened. And I need to bridge the gap from where I was to now. And my best friend was there every step of the way. My boyfriend was there every step of the way. My mother was there every step of the way. They were like trying to make sure I fully understand what is happening, right? Now that is when I started to put 2 and 2 together. So that is when I was actually advised, oh, you have been diagnosed with meningitis. And initially it was not kidney failure. And that is when I realized, oh, I was given my phone, of course, after crying for it for 3 days. So when I moved to a regular ward, that is when I had access to my phone. And then that's when I realized a whole group had been formed by my friends from school, by my friends from home. There was a whole poster that had been formed. to help with the medical bill. There was also accountability people. Like in that group, I will see who has checked up on Vivian, like it's morning hours. And even thinking about it, it actually makes me emotional. Because even after I got well, I looked back and I was like, people came through for you, Vivian. Like, people from all walks of life came through for you. And I remember I was having this conversation with my sister, and my sister was like, you are a good person. The way people showed up and showed out for you, and it wasn't just your close-knit friends, your classmates, even people who aren't your classmates, your schoolmates. I remember someone had told me, even in school, there was a whole rally to contribute for me. I remember even the school president at that particular point had taken it upon his hands to rally people to, show up for me. Like, whatever you can do, just show up, visit, send a message, of encouragement, contribute. Because I remember at this particular point, the bill had gone up to around 700,000 shillings. And me being sick, being in that position, I knew my mom will not come up with that by herself, right? Considering she is a single mom. She could not come up. So every single contribution anything that anyone did towards helping that fund or towards trying to make me feel better, from the bottom of my heart, I totally appreciate it. And I didn't see that coming. There was massive support. There was massive support on Twitter. People really came through for me on Twitter, which is right now the X app. And I remember even K24, where I had worked for, a few days. The morning show, I remember that time, they even put it on national television. You understand how much it takes for people to show up for you that much. I was eternally grateful. I slept, or rather even sat on that bed, and I was like, Vivian, you are blessed. For people to come through for you like this, it's not everyone who gets that chance. I think about that experience. You see, when people talk of life-changing experiences, this was my life-changing experience. Because I realized the impact that I as a person, I as a friend, I as a sister, I as, a classmate, a schoolmate, the impact I had on people and the impact people had on me. The way people came through for me. I remember even after I got well and I was supposed to do regular checkups monthly, I used to go back to that same hospital. The doctor said, Vivian, because that doctor loves apples. To date, if I have to go visit him, I have to bring him apples. And he told me, Vivian, the amount of support that we saw when you were sick, we have never seen in this hospital. He told me there was a time for a week straight, I had more than 100 visitors. Literally. They just came in, they were like, we just want to see Vivian. We just want to see Vivian. The whole hospital staff, they knew there is a Vivian in ICU. That, you understand, that is how much people showed up for me. My aunts traveled. My family traveled from far and wide just to come see me. Honestly, that was a life-changing experience for me. And I'm grateful it happened that way, because I understand maybe there's something I needed to see, maybe a different perspective of that. But just to touch on, I also remember when I was in campus, there's this magazine that I had briefly worked for, right? And I had written articles for. It is a Sudanese magazine. It's called Andaria.com. It's a Sudanese magazine. Right now it's online, but in Sudan they have they do physical copies. But in Kenya it's more of an East African magazine. They're trying to reach out to Africa, but they've started from the Eastern African countries. And I remember that editor was the one that is even an editor, someone I just wrote a single article for. They were concerned about my health. And I remember they were the ones who went ahead to do, because I remember I had an article with Parents Magazine about me and my sickness. I had an article there. I was on Twitter. I was on TV. Literally every single person that I had associated with, they came through for me, even when it was for a short period of time. And these people didn't owe me anything. It was honestly out of the goodness of their heart. And I feel like this is the message that I didn't get across. If I had a chance to meet every single person who did come through for me at that particular point, I would have. But thank you for this platform, because I feel like now I actually get to be very grateful to people who really came through for me, and I felt like I did not have that chance in its entirety at that particular point. And for the longest time, I've been feeling indebted, because I know how much it took for people to actually come through for me. And just to touch on basically on the diagnosis and all of that. So when I knew it was meningitis, the only thing I knew about meningitis at that particular point is that it's a deadly disease. People have actually died from meningitis. And there is one that is viral and there is one that is bacterial. Like there are two types of. And thank God mine was bacterial. Because the viral one, it had the highest number of recorded deaths as compared to the bacterial one. So the bacterial one has higher chances of survival, and hence why I'm here today. So after I was made aware of my diagnosis, and I started getting better by the day. I remember now, we are into the 3rd month now. I have been hospitalized for like 3 months straight. And I remember I had this doctor. Apart from the doctor who likes apples, I had another doctor. And I'm just not going to mention their names on this one, because those two are actually very private people. I had this female doctor who was she will stay with me through the night. She will literally hold my hand through the night. She'll be like, because I remember, yes, I'm under medication, but this medication was so strong that it had side effects. I'll wake up at night, I'm in so much heat. I don't want any blankets on me. I don't want any of that. And I'll be in shock. And I can't afford to be alone in that whilst I'm in that state. And this doctor was there. Anytime she had any sort of commotion, she would come into my room immediately. She'll hold my hand. She'll be like, "You're okay, Vivian. You're okay. You took your drugs. You did this and this." And guys, I even lost count of days, because I had not seen the sunlight in so long. Because heat and the sun is something that I didn't want any association with. And I don't know how that came by. By the way, when I was in hospital, my windows stayed closed most of the time. And since I had stayed in bed for so long, because I'd been in a laid position for so long, I started going for physiotherapy. Sorry, not psychotherapy, physiotherapy. Where I would sit on a wheelchair, I would take rounds in the hospital, I maybe stand up and walk. Because, it's not healthy for you to be laid in bed for that long. 3 months is quite a long time just to be in bed. Of course, I did basics, like I tried. Because I remember for the longest time ever, I was on diapers. Because I couldn't be able to just stand and go to the loo every single time. I was on adult diapers. And it's not something that I'm ashamed of talking about, because being in those adult diapers, it gave me some sort of dignity. Because it was more like, you're not strong enough to actually stand and go to the loo. Literally, the loo was literally next to me. But I'm like, you know what? I'd rather just stay in bed. And it was, again, life-changing experience for me. I had not been through that. It was my first time going through that it had such a huge impact in me as a person, in the way I view the world. And it really reminded me over and over again, the world is actually, we do have good people who exist. The world is actually a nice place. And that is why I have tried to maintain a positive scope when it comes to looking at things, instead of just straight out jumping for the negative scope. It was shaped by my experience. And I didn't want, right now, as much as I've grown from that experience, I don't like stereotyping things. Because that single incident, it really taught me that human beings are actually nice people deep down. Circumstances might have led them to, act in a certain way, but I believed once more good exists in the world. I remember there was this female that we were not in speaking terms by the time I got sick. And she did come to hospital. And we talked it out. And it was really nice. And I remember even people from church, that is MMUSD, Musda Church. I think they were the last people to visit me before I actually got discharged. And they were like, "We have been coming, but since you've been, asleep, or rather we come when you're asleep or when you're already on drugs. So we didn't have a chance to actually converse with you. We didn't have a chance to talk to you, but here we are. And I remember that last time that they came to see me, I was just like, I know I'm getting out of here. It was just the realization that, because even whilst I was in bed, I was like, God, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I will do everything that you want me to do. You know, when you're in a tight spot and you're trying to convince God to come through for you, and you are like promising him, I will not sin anymore. I will not do this anymore. I will go to church. I will do all these nice things for you. If only you let me live. I think it had gotten to that point. And when I had people from church visit me, I remember they even put their hands on me. They prayed for me. And after that prayer, it's just the realization that you're going to get through this. You're not dying. You're going to live. You're going to get through this. Vivian, it's just that realization. You see how people are confident. Something will really be burning up. Something will be in shambles. If you're looking at it from the outside looking in, you'll be like, yeah, she's not going to survive that fire. But innately, after that last visit from people from church, I was 100% sure. I was like, you are definitely going to make it out of here alive. And I was bitter with the hospital that misdiagnosed me. I was bitter with the hospital that misdiagnosed me. Because I remember even after I had been discharged off of hospital, after the bill had been paid, I remember even after there were contributions from church, there were contributions from school, contributions from family. My boyfriend himself, I think he actually took a huge chunk of the bill, and I am eternally grateful for him. So after everything was done and said, like, you've been discharged, the full bill has been paid, now what is remaining is let's do checkups, let's do this, let's do A, B, and C. I remember when I went home, I had to start from scratch again. I had to start reading books. I had to start grasping as much knowledge as I would. Because as a person, I was worried that I'm not knowledgeable enough because I've lost most of my memory. And it is high time I started regaining it back. And I remember that is the time I signed up with a counselor. I don't want to say a therapist, because was it really therapy? I don't know. Let me use counselor. She was a female. Her name is Phoebe. And Phoebe really came through for me. She walked me. You see the way you want to take care of a baby. She walked me through it. She was like, you need to read as many books as you can, Vivian, so that you can remember as many words as you can and relate these words to objects. You know, you've not lost it all, but you've lost some of it. And I need you to recover it back. And she walked me through it. And by the way, luckily, by the time I got discharged, I had a few months. Then I was supposed to resume school. And, at that particular point, I had actually started going for checkups once a week. It wasn't now on a daily basis. I was still under very heavy medication. But now from home. I'm taking this medication from home. So I went to the hospital, and then the doctor was like, you're sure you want to resume school? I'm like, yeah, I feel like I'm ready. And the doctor was not for that idea. She was like, if you need to defer this semester, please defer this semester. It is never that serious. Take your time. Heal completely so that you're ready for the world again. But I had already been down that rabbit hole. I had already been down being sick and being viewed as sick or being unproductive. Naturally, I'm such a workaholic. So I didn't want to be in that space of I'm neither studying, neither am I working. I'm just home. I'm waiting to recover, guys. And sometimes it is important. Health matters. Your health matters. But I also didn't want to have a pity party. I didn't want to be in that position where people are just visiting again and again and again. They'll be like, oh, yeah, she's not well yet. Yeah, she can't resume school yet. So I had a chat with my mother. And I told my mother, you know what, ma'am? I think I'll go back to school. I think I'll resume school same time as everyone else is resuming school. I'm going to do that. And I did. I did resume school. Though it was tough. Because remember, by this time, I've lost so much weight because I was not eating. And I remember when I was in ICU, I was getting fed with tubes. So I was literally, essentially only taking liquids. So I have lost so much weight. I have not had a chance to regain that weight back. I'm just trying to recover. I am under very heavy medication. My previous clothes wouldn't even fit me. And the first day that I went back to school, I had a friend, Tumaini. She was my coursemate. She still is my very good friend, up to date. She was there. She was like, you want to resume school? I'm here to hold your hand. I will do this for you. If you need help with your practicals, remember now, this is the last semester before you graduate. This is the last semester before you graduate. And I didn't honestly want to defer because that would have meant that I would have to have graduated with a different class. I wanted to do it to the people who are actually there for me. So I pushed myself. I remember the first day I resumed school, Tumaini was there to receive me, and she was with her other friend. And I was hit with the realization, because this other friend of Tumaini's made a statement. She was like, mbona huyu anafanana Vivian? She couldn't recognize me. That is how much I had changed. She was like, msichana anaongea kama Vivian. This female talks like Vivian. And Tumaini was like, this is Vivian. She has just been sick for this period of time, and now she's trying to recover. And that is when I was hit with the realization, Vivian, you decided to resume school as early as now, be ready. People would be shocked to see you back, especially people who hadn't seen you in quite a long time. People will make comments because most people are unhinged. They'll be like, especially when they don't know your story, most people are unhinged. So I went back to school. I was ready. I was like, you know what? Whatever criticism I receive, whatever questions I get asked, I'll be ready for that. And I remember my lecturer, Laban Fraser, was very supportive of me because most of the practical units that we were doing, they were being handled by him. And he gave me the grace. He was like, yes, there's this project that you need to do, but you know what? I'm going to give you all the time that you require. I'm going to give you all the support that you require. And of course, eventually I did graduate. Of course, eventually I did finish school. Yeah, and of course, eventually I fully regained my weight. Sorry, not my weight. Yeah, my weight, of course, and my health generally. And I don't know. This is one of those things that happened to me that every time I look back and I think about it and I break it down, it's like I get to learn something new out of it. And that is why when you see people a certain way, when people are behaving a certain way, please make a point of knowing their story. Because some experiences, they change your life forever. They change your life forever. And for me, this was the experience. And to be honest with you, even after that, I have taken extra precaution. I've been like right now, I go for monthly checkups. I go for vitals, checking my pressure. I'm checking my weight. I'm checking my height. I'm like, what do I need to do? Because I also don't ever want to be in that position again. But at the same time, I'm not saying that experience, or rather me going through that, was a loss. Of course, if I had a choice, I would blame, like, I didn't want to stay in the ICU for 2 weeks. I didn't want to be that sick. But there was a reason for that, experience. There's always a reason for everything. And as the years go by after that diagnosis, after the years go by after that particular experience, I just keep learning and I just keep fully understanding why we had to go down that road. Because I remember even on Twitter, as much as people were supportive, I did have a couple of people who weren't supportive. And then I did realize, yeah, it's two sides of a coin. Some people will be in it for you. Some people will just want to rip it off of you, But I have to say, bottom line is, I think being a nice person really goes a long way. And I'm not saying being a nice person in terms of pretend nice person. I mean, when your intentions are clear and when your heart is pure, the universe will just respond to you. God will just, because for me, I didn't even have to do anything. People just really came through for me. I didn't even have to pull any strings. I didn't even have to be like, okay, there's this guy that I know who can do this for me. No. People just naturally, they came to my rescue. They were there for me. Someone I had even probably conversed with once. People who didn't even know me, actually. People who just had, because I remember Honorable Ali Noor. He's the one who pushed the Twitter I don't know, the Twitter buzz, let me call it a buzz for me. Yeah. Because I remember by that just one tweet, he was like, please go out there. I had never met that guy. To date, actually, I've never met him in person. But for someone who does not know you, all they know is your story. You know, to come through for you like that, it really went a long way for me. And I will say this. When you as an individual or you as a human being, you're going through something, there's an extent to which just you understand exactly what you're going through. The outside world will never fathom exactly what you're going through. But for this particular experience, I felt like my friends understood more what I was going through than I did. Because there was a very high chance of me going through depression. You know, getting depressed because of this. There was a very high chances of me, or rather a high possibility of me quitting school. There was very high chances of me committing suicide because at some point I felt like a burden to my mother. I felt like, did you really have to put your mother through this? As much as it's not something that I chose, I didn't choose to be sick. But the fact that the world showed up for me like that, it really propelled me to even become bigger and better, even after that particular experience. And as much as I was still bitter, still I am bitter with that hospital for misdiagnosing me. I would advise you, the audience, you, the listeners, when it comes to your health, there is absolutely no compromise. There is absolutely no compromise. Because to some extent, I thought, what if you had stayed at that particular private hospital? The charges would have been higher, but probably this misdiagnosis could not have happened. Probably they would not have put your health in danger. Probably you will not have to have spent that much money to get back to your regular health. There's a good side and a bad side to this. But what I will say is, whenever it comes to your health, never compromise. Go all the way. Do as many checks as you need to do. Take care of yourself. You come first. You know, health over wealth any day. It really goes a long way. This is the only body you have. Take care of it.
Catch more African stories in the next episode of Legally Clueless. That is, man, a roller coaster of a story. First and foremost, I just want to know, have you ever been misdiagnosed by a doctor? What was that experience like? Please let me know in the comments on whatever platform this is you're listening on, because it's so costly. You know, I'm fortunate enough to not have experienced that, but I have experienced doctors not trusting me. Does that make sense? Like, you go into a doctor's office and you're explaining that I'm feeling this pain here and here and here, and the doctor is like insisting either that the pain can't be there, it's somewhere else, or it's no cause for alarm, which is just mental. I remember going and having like a severe tummy ache that like sent me to the hospital in the wee hours of the morning. And this doctor was like convinced I was pregnant. I'm there like, bro, please, I know my body, I'm not. And I know my actions, I know, brother, I'm not, you know? And I was worried it was something else. Grateful that it wasn't, but we spent so much time going back and forth. And I understand they have to do their job, but there has to be a bit of leeway where you trust the patient, because we're the ones with our bodies all the time. You know what I mean? And so now I'm very happy with my doctor, because she literally wants to hear my input. Like, it's almost at the same level with her expertise when she's trying to figure out what's wrong with me. And that's something I really appreciate. So anyway, have you ever been misdiagnosed? Please let me know. I feel like the part in Vivian's story where she talks about trying to reclaim her memory, I was just like, oh my goodness, how hectic is that? You know, like, it's not only you're trying to remember the people around you, your family, your friend, people in your support systems who you've completely forgotten, which is traumatic in itself. But can you imagine trying to remember words and objects? And this is all happening pretty close to your exams. How wild, how absolutely wild. But speaking of community, I just love how she had so many people around her, even strangers. And that's something I really love about Kenyans. I don't know if it happens in other countries. It's probably does, I don't know, but Kenyans, because this is where I've lived all my life, we come through for each other. I don't know, in like such a powerful, powerful way. We come through for strangers. We really, it's just always so fascinating to watch, especially now that it happens more on social media. I mean, she's even saying there's people who had never met her who were like, hey, I'm going to donate this much, or sharing about her fundraiser. And yeah, I was very moved by that. There is just so much kindness in this world. You know, also when she talked about being in a coma, it's reminded me of some TikTok guy I've been watching who talks about people who have had near-death experiences, explaining what that looks like for them. And one guy is a bit too out there for me. I feel like he's pushing one particular agenda, but there's another guy who it's just different experiences. Some people say they saw a light. Some people are just like, I saw nothing. You know what I mean? And I kind of like that other guy because it feels a bit more real. But I've always been intrigued by like, what do you see either near death or like in a coma? And so when she talks about it just being like nothingness, I don't know, that sounded very scary. You know what I mean? I'd rather like see a light. Oh my goodness. But we're so thankful that Vivian shared her story with us. And if you want to share your story, please, in the show notes, there is a storyteller form. Fill it out and one of our correspondents will get back to you. We'll record your story. As long as it's African, it doesn't matter where in the world you are. It's African. We want to hear it. We think it's valid and we want to be inspired by your story. So share it with us. Also, if you are in East Africa, remember you can listen to this podcast on Trace East Africa every Monday and Wednesday at 1 p.m. and 11 p.m. And on Fridays, we're there at 1 p.m. Just go to traceradio.co.ke to stream. Final reminder to grab your tickets to our wellness talk that's happening on the 25th of May. The theme is navigating a toxic workplace. So if you know someone who's going through this challenge, share this wellness talk with them. We've posted it up on our Instagram page and tickets are just 1,000 bob. Grab them in the show notes or go to legallycluelessafrica.com or Hustle Sasa to grab your tickets. It's virtual, which means wherever you are in the world, you can jump in. That's all for this episode. Oh my goodness. How could I forget to share? I forgot to share something so important. Okay, I'm going to share it with you real quick, okay? Before... I can't believe I was going to end this without sharing this. So today is Mother's Day. And I think one of the main things I've talked about across this podcast has been my journey with grieving my mom. And there's been Mother's Days on here that I've been in tears. There have been Mother's Days I've felt very lonely, etc. But the reason I sound like I'm in high spirits is I've had the most grateful Mother's Day ever. So something happened that I didn't realize I always wanted to happen until it happened. Okay, hear me out. So my neighbors are a mother and daughter duo, and we've grown to be amazing friends, you know, both me and the mom, me and the daughter. We can speak for hours, literally hours. Like someone super close to me always says how I love small talk. He's been on the phone with me when I bump into my neighbor, and he will be waiting a long time for me to get back onto the phone because we just keep talking, right? Anyway, so Mother's Day, guess what? They invited me to spend Mother's Day with them. And so we went for brunch. And then they, you know, the daughter had booked something for the mom. And I kind of was like, okay, I'm going to give them their time as well. But let me tell you, hanging out with them was so beautiful. My heart feels so grateful and light. I also, you know, it's been a long time. My mom died in 2012 March, which means the last Mother's Day I celebrated with her was 2011 May, right? So that was the last time I bought flowers or cards or whatever I used to get my mom. And so I did it this Mother's Day today for my neighbor and friend. And they were both so grateful. Her daughter sent me the sweetest thank you message afterwards, and like a picture of her mom posing with the flowers. And the daughter was like, thank you so much. You've really made my mom's day, etc. And I was like, you have made my day. Like, you have shown me such kindness, you know? And I never knew that all of these Mother's Days, maybe it's now that I'm in a space where I'm welcoming to it, but I never knew this is something I would have wanted, to be with friends who are moms or who have moms and celebrate the day with them. It's never crossed my mind, you know? And I'm pretty sure even if it had crossed my mind, I wouldn't have had the courage to ask someone if I could join them. So having someone just out of the blue offer, and they know my experience losing my mom, etc. So having them offer was just so kind. So fucking kind. Like I'm really on a high. I am really on a high because of that. And so normally I end the episode by giving you grace. I think I'm going to ask if you can just extend kindness to the people around you this week, if you have the capacity to. I think that's really the essence of this episode, because Vivian's story shows how powerful kindness is. And then my day-to-day, Mother's Day, has just been made so beautiful because of a random act of kindness. So if you do have the capacity to this week, be kind to someone. Even yourself, actually. That's it for this episode of Legally Clueless. You can share this podcast with your friends. You can keep it for yourself. I'm not judging. Just make sure you're here next week for the next episode.